Welcome to Deep Dive, FOH Deep Dive. This very popular segment, and today we've got Robert Ford2112. What does 2112 stand for?
It's a Rush album.
Ah,
Yeah,
there you go.
it's
There you go.
I don't know. I kind of wish I could change it now because it's kind of generic, but
You
it
can
was
change
something.
it.
No, it's too
You
late.
can change
It's too
it.
late
Okay.
now.
Okay. I'm just letting you know. I get these odd requests. Wife's tracking me down. She's looking at all my social media. Can you change my name? All that sort of stuff. We can do it
Can't
on
do
the
it.
back end.
I'll
All
live
right.
with
So
it. I think I think it's fitting.
that goes to all the other members there. If you really want to change your name or your handle on the forum, then you're more than welcome to, within reason. There's always, people like to stay hidden on occasion. That's all good. No problems at all. Mate, where does this live find you at the moment? Where are you? Where are you based?
I'm in Monterey, California, and I'm actually in the process of moving. It's the no art on the walls, and it's kind of a sparse apartment right now, but um,
I thought you were divorced. I thought recently divorced, and that's because
uh,
that's what my
no,
apartment looked like
not
afterwards.
recently. I actually got divorced in the early 2000s, and I've been living this way ever since. So, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good, man. What are you
I've,
what are you lighting up tonight?
I've got a 2007 St. Louis Ray double Corona,
Very nice.
uh, and I got it from either Island Boy or Shy Bears V. One of our, they were both the same lot, and I ended up doing a trade out for these. And I've never smoked one, so it's long
I hope
been a
you
bucket
enjoy it.
list.
It's a great
You know,
cigar.
well,
I hope it
I've heard
performs for you.
I've heard a lot of good about it, and the smell of these things is amazing. Kind of
I'm doing a I'm doing a Magnum 50 from 2014 from memory. These are. I love a Mag 50. I think they're very nice. I think actually they share a few characteristics with the SLRD set.
do they?
Uh, yeah,
The
they
one,
are. They share a few characteristics. In fact, I think Mag 50s are the closest thing Upman has to a St. Louis Ray in profile.
okay.
Um,
It's one of
but
the few Utmans I've never tried as a Mag 50. I love the Mag 46.
different animal. Yeah,
Yeah,
geez.
so that's got some hair on it. That cigar.
Yeah, the Magnum 50 is like it's that Upman that went to the finishing schools. There's a
Oh,
it's a little bit more refined than the 46. The 46 can be true mongrel in those, especially in those early years. You know, but I love them both.
I
You
like
love
that.
all your kids. You love all your kids.
Yeah,
Right? Right. Works. Is that true? So you're a native of Monterey?
yeah. Born and raised here. Um, and right now we have what's called Car Week, which is the Concours d'Elegance, and all the fancy rich people are driving their Maseratis around town, and they have the car auctions in Pebble Beach, and um, so you'll see a lot of interesting vehicles like McLarens and things like that, Lotuses, and big
You're a
money
car guy.
cars.
You're a car guy yourself.
Mm-mm. I drive
Right.
I drive a Chevy pickup. I
Nothing
keep
wrong with
it
that.
simple.
Yeah.
And actually, I just bought a camper bus. I'm going to be taking that. I bought it used to be a shuttle bus for San Quentin Prison, and I'm converting it into a camper. So should be fun. Going to kill a lot of
Oh,
fish in that thing.
so you're mate, so you're fairly handy, or are you doing the conversion yourself, or you're getting someone else to do it, or
Well, my best friend's a plumber. I got another friend who's an electrician. I'm a painter by trade, and I know quite a bit of carpentry. And so between the three or four of us, we got it pretty well covered. So
painter by trade? Always been a painter.
no, my first job was washing cars. Actually, I worked at a car wash, and that lasted about a month, and they got rid of me because I think drinking and smoking weed was a little more important in those days. We were teenagers. And then my dad had a furniture moving company, and I did that for a number of years. And I've been a tradesman since the mid '90s.
My first jobs are really sexy.
Yes.
What my first job was, my first real job. When I say real job, pocket money job, was stacking shelves of Woolworths at night, and yeah, that was great. I love that. Not really, but it was interesting. I mean, it was the first time I worked out how workplace dynamics formed, and political and politics, and every store has its own politics. And when you were only 15 years of age, you're at there's no rung lower there. And just thinking back now to, yeah, everything was a drama in the store, which is just, it's like, well, banking actually trained me well for banking, because always a drama in corporate ranks. But it was cool. Yeah, it was good, mate. Cigar wise, what do you? When did you start?
Well, my first cigar, I had um, there was a group of buddies. We used to go down to the pier and go fishing, and I bought a 5 pack of those King Edward real crappers. They were like a quarter a piece, and when you smoked them, they made you green to the gills. And so that was my idea. I bought cigars, and those were the first cigars we smoked. And I said, "This is we're going to go down and we're going to go fishing and we're going to be men." And so we smoked these cigars, and that kind of just started a love affair. I've always had a fascination with them. And my first real cigar, I think it was an Arturo Fuente,
Yeah,
back in the early '90s, or a La Gloria Cubana. I think they were Dominican. Um,
they were one of the hot cigars in the United States at the time. I
yes,
remember.
yes. So that might have been the first cigar that I remember grabbing me.
Yeah,
My first Cuban was a Monte Cristo #2, and that was
that
a
got you.
glorious. I was on a beach in Mexico with a cute little redheaded girlfriend that I had, and we'd had a big dinner on the beach of lobster and steak, and I lit up that Monte Cristo, and yeah, I still remember how that cigar
Did,
tasted. And
did you buy it off the beach in Mexico?
no, I got it from a legit. I actually got it from a legit
Nothing.
source. It was not a glass top
Mind,
box.
mind you, even a fake Monte Cristo with a cute red head on the beach is going to be good. I mean,
Yeah,
really,
I mean,
it's going to be good.
the whole experience. I was enamored with it, and um, I would manage to get my hands on a Cuban every once in a while, but it wasn't until uh, a number of years ago that I really got heavily into cigars, and sometime around pre-COVID.
Oh, it's just pre-COVID. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
So when I
it,
got back into it, I went through some health problems. I had some strokes, and I kind of decided that I wanted to take up some hobbies that I'd always wanted to do, and so that's kind of been the last 4 or 5 years of my life has been kind of checking off bucket list stuff.
uh, Jesus. So at what age did you have the strokes? The first one,
48.
48.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It is
I'm good.
it's an awakening, isn't it? It really
Well,
makes you refocus. Yeah.
it knocked out my short-term memory, which is kind of good because I don't dwell on things anymore. So as long as I write things down, I'm good to go. But yeah, so I kind of I got back into cigar collecting, and I was buying up I was trying different things. I got into Padrones there for a little while, and I still love a good Padrone. 1964 Maduros are
Yeah.
my favorite of those. They're fantastic cigars. And then I I ordered I believe I did order some fake Cubans online from a not to be named gray market vendor, and then
Is
I
he still?
stumbled on I
Is he still
stumbled on
around?
FOH.
Are they still around?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have a reputation.
Ah, jeez.
It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but that was a learning curve for me. and trust your vendor.
Trust you.
And
So you received this box from XYZ vendor. When did you know? When did you know? What was the trigger
I
that they
bought
were
a bunch
fake?
of I bought a bunch of singles, and I just suspected a couple of them were legit. There was a Bolivar that I think was legitimate, but one of them was a Cohiba, was definitely a fake. Um, naturally, and then I just
It's a Yeah, it's a great way of increasing your ROI is to blend your stock levels between fake and real. Um, which it was a common practice in the 2000s. Not through FOH people. I'm just letting you know, but just generally, it was a relatively common practice by those who had less scruples. But yeah, you stock legitimate Monty fours, D4s, etc. there, but you make your money with the illegitimate Cohibas, etc. And yeah, slow and easy, slow and
yeah,
easy.
it just pays to
But
do due diligence when you're going to be buying high end cigars, like especially at these prices. I would take no chances. So
no, no, I, from an online perspective, there's probably only half a dozen people that online that I would certainly I'd buy my own stock from if I had to. That'd be about half a dozen, but that's online. Anyway, so you got done for some fakes. What did you do with them? You still got them?
no, I smoked them. I mean,
You,
what the hell?
you give away to your
I
mooching
can't.
mates who've got no
Well,
idea.
I actually have one of my fishing buddies had a habit of bringing back uh, cigars from Mexico, and he got me a box of well, I didn't pay for them, but they were a box of 898 Partagas, and they were the worst smelling constructed, no triple cap. The labels were bad. I mean, everything was off on this box. And I said, smell these, and I put it in his face. He goes, God, that smells terrible. I said, well, I'm not paying for them. And so I think that woke him up to. There was a thread a while back about what should I do if a buddy of mine brings fake cigars? Should I tell him? Shouldn't I? I don't worry about sparing any of my friends' feelings, so I just told him straight out, your cigars suck. Those things are fake. Fire your source. Stay away
I
from the
know.
glass top boxes.
It's always a hard discussion to have with people. I think it's a hard discussion. Look, actually, it depends on how close you are to your mate.
Well, yeah,
So, yeah, if he's a close friend, you tell him straight up, and you tell him why. But I find it's more difficult when they're an acquaintance
hmm
and you don't know them that well, let alone a perfect stranger who comes up and says, "Hey, Rob, what do you think of these?"
right.
Uh,
There's no
it,
problem with really bludgeoning your mates, right?
no, no,
True pals
that's
can
what they're
handle it.
there. That's what we're there for, isn't it?
That's right.
Is to
That's love.
take the piss out of each other. But when it comes to acquaintances, that becomes more difficult, and for complete strangers, especially those who really believe that what they have is real and they're very, very proud of it.
Yeah,
And I have often just kept quiet. 9 times out of 10, I'll keep quiet
keep
and
quiet about it.
say, and I'll take it, and I'll God, I hope I don't have to smoke it. Sometimes they enforce that I have to smoke it with them, and yeah, I talk about everything else bar the cigar where I possibly can.
Right.
But it's the level of fakes in the market, especially in your part of the world. Mexico's a classic, isn't it? I mean, Central South America. I don't know. They used to say there was 70 million fakes a year being made, and I reckon that is there'd have to be 4, 5, 6 times that now globally, and they
Yeah.
all find they find a home. They find a home. So
Hey, if you smoke them and enjoy them, then what you don't
I
know
did
won't hurt you, I guess.
that thing that pisses me off is, and I see it and I hear it, is new guys coming into the game, into the CC game, and they say I've never liked Cohiba. I've never had a good Cuban. I hate Cuban cigars. And I say, okay, fine. What have you had? I've had a D4. I've had a Coro. I said, fine. Where did you buy it? And you go, we bought it in Mexico or from my lounge dealer. My local lounge guy has a little stash of Cubans that he gets in, and you know exactly where that's come from. That's come from a mule that's got him off the street in Havana or somewhere else and brought them back in. So they've never really had a Cuban cigar. So, I often just give them one that I know is good. And again, 9 times out of 10, they're appreciative, and they'll come back to me if they don't smoke them. They'll come back to me later and say, "Well, that was very different to what I've had in the past." And so, patience, patience is what's required when dealing with newcomers to it, and you'll see it. I mean, and I was going to ask you, what's your cigar circle like in Montreal?
Uh, I've got there's a group of us that get together and we smoke cigars. I've got a friend of mine that pretty recently started getting hooked on them, and I smoked a Partagas Lusitania with him, and he said I need more of those in my life. So he's hooked, and I find that there's quite a few of us around. Um, I've got a couple fishing buddies that whenever we go out of town and go steelhead fishing, we around the campfire or whatever, we light up cigars, and that's one of the highlights of my. It's one of my favorite things is
One of
after
the
a long
highlights
day
of
of
life.
fishing.
Yeah, yeah. Have you always fished?
Yes, my
Yeah.
grandpa got me into fishing when I was 8 years old, and
Yeah.
I outfished him one day, and that was it. So I've been hopelessly addicted to fishing ever since. And
Yeah.
my main passion is fishing in the Pacific Northwest for salmon and steelhead, and fishing the big sprawling rivers that we have up there, the Umpqua River, the Rogue River, the Klamath River. And this year I'm planning on spending about a month up there straight, so it should be pretty good.
No.
It's just beautiful up there. The weather's unpredictable. The fish are uh, challenging, and every day's different conditions. You're constantly trying to adapt. I live for that. Love it.
I think cigars and fishing and friends go so well together. Again, I'm very lucky. My dad taught me how to fish, and I haven't taught my kids that much, but I've taught them how to fish, except for my daughter, who I traumatized while fishing, and therefore she's now a vegetarian. Um, but even now, I mean, I think it's a great way of spending time together. I just got a text message from my son Ben now saying, "Dad, are we taking the boat out this Saturday? Run out tide starts at 7:16 a.m." I mean, they love fishing, and to be able to fish with your kids as they get older. And it's only recently that I stopped fishing with my dad because he's 90, he's 91,
Wow.
he's a bit unsteady on the sand, etc. So it's only recently, last couple of years, that he's hung up his fishing rod. But I think it's a great way of spending time with friends and family, and quality time. Yeah, I don't
And
know what
being
it is.
being out in nature. I mean, it gets me grounded. I have to have it in my life. So that's I'd say that's my main hobby is steelhead fishing.
Steelhead, never done it. Yeah. How big do they
Yeah.
get?
Well, I mean, depending on the locale, if you go up to Canada, you can get a 35-pound steelhead, and they're rainbow trout. They're rainbow trout that travel to the ocean, spend their adult lives at sea like a salmon, but they don't necessarily die when they spawn. So they're pretty remarkable fish. Um, Down here in California, like the Klamath River, they average 3 to 5 pounds, but they're
Yeah. Fun.
firecrackers. Oh yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of fun. We fish light tackle, and it's a
Like
blast.
tackle.
Yeah, 8 pound test, real long rods, and
Do,
you see them.
do, do, do you take photos of all the fish that you catch, all the decent ones? Do you do a
No,
Ken target where you push the fish out to the camera so much actually fell over? He did that once. He actually fell
I
over
don't.
forward.
I don't even remember who said it, but somebody on the board in the fishing section, I put a picture up and accused me of taking the same fish and just posting it in different threads, and yeah.
Was that
So
Ken? Was that Ken?
no, I don't think it was Ken. As a matter of fact, after this is over, I'm going to go take a look. Maybe send a private message. But I used to take pictures of all my fish, and then I just started getting boxes of pictures of me with fish, and it got a little boring. But I'll take one if it's a special, you know,
What do you
background scenery. Or,
what are your fishing cigars?
uh,
What do you pack? What do you pack? Do you have certain favorites for that
I
specifically?
do like in the morning I might smoke a Perla or a Petit Corona or something like that, or a Ninfa. Those are great fishing cigars. I also, if I'm really involved in what I'm doing and I don't want a cigar that I have to really pay too much attention to, I'll smoke a Jose El Piedra or something, a
You like that, the
Toscano,
Centros? Yeah?
the Petite Cetros. Yes,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
they just it's a good little cigar. For two, I think I got like the last time I scored them, I managed to get some for $2 a cigar, which is in this day and age that's unheard of. So
When was that? Before around 2019 or after?
no, that was about 6 months ago.
God, don't tell Habanos. They'll be all
I'm not
over
gonna.
you.
No, as a
No,
matter
no.
of fact, they're gone now. I can't find it anymore. But yeah, and I smoked through that batch. I tend to burn through. I mean, I've cut back, but I was smoking probably 5 cigars a day there for a while. And lately, I've been really into the double Coronas and the bigger Votolas. At night, I've got free time, so I like to sit down and let the cigar take me on a journey. By the way, this SLR is
I'm going to
dynamite.
ask you. I was
Ah,
going to ask you.
fantastic.
You're just over 20 minutes in, so you get some sort of opinion on it, that
It
opening.
started. I got a lot of stone fruit in it. A lot of it's real twangy. Yeah, it's a
It's a,
17-year-old cigar, so
it's a unique cigar. It
yeah,
really
it
is.
it definitely is a I've been and the ash is just perfect. I don't know if you can see that. Good
Yeah.
construction.
SLR DCs. I couldn't give those things away.
Amazing.
For many years, I couldn't give them away. I had I had a humidor which had one wall that was floor to ceiling of cabinets of 50 SLR DCs, and I was wondering what the hell I was going to do with
Hmm.
them. It was
To
just
have a time
nuts.
machine. If
Ah,
I could go back in time. If we only knew now what we didn't know then.
well, I wouldn't be having this interview. I'd be retired. I'd be fishing, Robert. I'd be
Right.
fishing. Yeah, yeah, it's good. So, but your daily, I mean, okay, so you go if you're going through 5 cigars a day, or you did, or whatever. But what is your normal routine rotation? What's your normal rotation in terms of cigars on a weekly basis? What do you what if where does your hand go to these days?
My hand goes to I just burned through a box of Rafael Gonzalez uh, Petit Coronas and Perlas. I was kind of alternating. Those were my morning smokes with a cigar and a cup of coffee, driving to work or whatever. Um, in the evenings, I'm a big fan of Lonsdale's, and so I
Yeah,
had some. My unfortunately burned through my last of that. I had a dynamite box of Partagas 898s um, from 2018, and every one of those was upper 90s. I mean, they were just phenomenal. So I don't know. It kind of depends on what box is on at any given point. Juan Lopez is a good one. I like Juan Lopez one, Juan Lopez two. I haven't had one in a while, but a Corona, Quidorce Corona. So I like the skinnier Vitolas. Um, I'm not a fan of the 54 gauge and up, although the Rio Seco is a dynamite cigar. I
it
hate the
is.
size. I
So
love
do
the
I.
flavor of them, and I feel the same way about the what's another big job? Oh, the E2, Partagas
Yeah.
E2. Those are great cigars. But if I have my choice, and then lately I've been smoking a lot of double Coronas. I got some Don Alejandros that were good, and then my favorites right now are my punch double Coronas. I've got a handful of those,
What
and
year are they from?
I don't know. They're
No,
at least 6 or 7 years old, but I can't remember.
they're a great cigar. I love
Great
them.
cigar. Matter of fact, I had one last week that I smoked it down to about half an inch. It burned my fingers. The thing was phenomenal. I didn't want it to end. About 2 hours smoke.
If you like a skinnier cigar and you enjoyed the cigar of that profile, that SLRDC, if you like that flavor profile, keep an eye out for just places like Bon Roberts. Keep an eye out for the Sancho Panza Molinos,
The
which
Molinos.
is they're discontinued, obviously, but they still come up fairly regularly at a decent price.
Yeah, I've
And
seen them
they
pop
are
up here and there.
cracking cigar, absolute cracking cigar. If you love that Lonsdale format, which I do, I think
The one
it's
that
one
I
of my
think is a shame that got discontinued is the H Up and Petit Corona. I mean, everyone I've smoked has been just phenomenal, and I don't understand why they would discontinue that. You know, they could get rid of about
favorite.
5 or 6 Romeo y Julieta Vitolas and bring back that one, as far as I'm concerned.
H. Upmann Petit Coronas sales boomed the minute they were discontinued,
Right.
and
Go
right,
figure.
yeah, and there was so many around, and I think that was the problem. They just weren't being picked up in the market. There was so many
And
around.
is that a fear of missing out that because I noticed that if a cigar gets discontinued, everybody wants it. You want
Yeah,
what you can't have.
yeah, that's all it is. It's a very good cigar. Don't get me wrong. It's a very good cigar. I enjoy it, and but it was just such a shame that if it had more regular buyers, it wouldn't have been in that situation. Um, but for the next, and it took about 2 years when they discontinued. 2 years for stocks to disappear. But my God, you wouldn't believe how many there were out in that marketplace of H. Upmann Petit Coronas. They are everywhere. And within
Well,
2 years, they were gone. But it took 2 years to bleed them out.
so what's the reasoning behind marcas like Punch or even Partagas that had so many Vitolas that have been discontinued? I wish I could go back in time and smoke a Connoisseur Du Prince or whatever. You know, all those legendary cigars that I read about that have been long gone and discontinued, and I don't even see them pop up on Bond Roberts.
They're So Punch is an interesting one. If you take the Corona Gorda, I think at one stage they had 5 or 6 Corona Gordas in different,
Yeah,
from the Punch Black Prince all the way through
and they
to
had the Ninfa.
World Selection 11s, all that sort of stuff there. But a lot of it's difficult to market 6 different Vitolas in the same mark. And online came, and I think they made a mistake. I think they made a massive mistake by getting rid of those cigars.
Yeah.
I've said it before, they'd be better off only producing it once every 3 years and doing a batch of 100, 200, 300,000 and keeping it. But the world changed, and the world changed, and they misread the change. The world changed in that in normal bricks and mortar stores around the world, displays by legislation, especially in Europe and Asia, were getting smaller. So you can only have 3 meters by 2 meter cigar display. So really, you can only keep 35, 40 boxes within your humidor.
Right.
You're not going to keep six lots of Punch Corona Gordas. You're
Yeah.
going to keep 1, maybe 2, and Punch
Of
is the
the
one,
best ones, the best sellers, and then
the best sellers. It comes
your
down to
Monte
best sellers.
Cristo, your Cohibas, your
Yeah, exactly. You're going to keep your best sellers. So that was one thing that occurred. Also, at the time, Habanos was, especially 2000, when Habanos started calling some tunes in terms of marketing. They knew it was a basket case financially. The whole business was a basket case, and they had to cut. I mean, I don't know, maybe they had 450 lines at the time, and they really had to see, okay, exactly how many are we selling? What are the costs for marketing? A lot of it just didn't make any sense. But then they overreached. They got ahead of their skis and they started cutting things which are really, really good and just needed some decent marketing. And of course, online was really coming on strong. And if they could just maintain great cigars, then they would have found an online market. They didn't have to produce a large number of them. They could have done it. They could have maintained most of those marks that were discontinued. No, Hoy the Montre, La Hoy the Dieu. I mean, what a brilliant cigar. I love that cigar. And a lot of people love that cigar. But if they only made that cigar every 3 or 4 years, we'd all be happy. We'd go get our 2 or 3 caps, bring it back in. They know it's being launched next year or being produced next year. They could do a little campaign on it. This is your period of time to buy your Hoy de Montre, the Hoy de Dieu. They would have sold out, and they wouldn't piss people off. They'd maintain that I hate using the term connoisseur market, so I won't. That loyalist market, the Cuban cigar loyalist market, guys like Ray or Piggy and others who love those, Partagas Coronas, Partagas Lonsdays, cigars like that should never have disappeared. But they didn't. Okay, you can't produce them on a consistent basis. Produce it every 3 years and rotate
Yeah,
them
have
through
like a special release and
a little platform. But no, they
yeah.
didn't do that. The bean counters took hold, and we have what we have now. So yeah, it's a disappointing period. Is the H. Upmann Petit Corona the one cigar you really miss from that period, or what they've discontinued, or there are a few others?
Um, what got discontinued that really? Well, I mean, they're not discontinued, but Partagas 898. I mean, good luck finding them. Those are probably the ones that I lament the most that I can't get my hands on them. And now they're probably priced out of my range anyway. So, I mean, I'm not paying $50 for a Lonsdale. Maybe. Depends. If the right box came along, I'd consider it.
Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing because the US traditionally has had the cheapest cigars in the world, Cuban cigars in the world, the US and Spain, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But if you go today, you can get a Partagas 898 out of London or Hong Kong. I mean, you're seriously paying around 65, 70 US dollars a stick, if not more,
Yeah.
for that. It is what it is. It's a tough one. But you're into music.
I am into music. That's
Tell us
something
about
that
your music background, your music love.
I like everything. But as a kid growing up in the 80s, I grew my hair long and I had a bad attitude and listened to a lot of Judas Priest and Black Sabbath and all those raucous bands that my mother and my father would cringe whenever I'd be coming wearing a t-shirt of Ozzy Osbourne spitting out a bat or whatever, That was kind of but I've always been really deeply involved in music. I play guitar a bit and come from a musical family. My grandmother was a self-taught piano player. She played honky-tonk piano after World War II, and she was brilliant. She was really good. And then I got a cousin that plays French horn, bass, drums, guitar. And my nephew, my sister's oldest, he's 23 and he's a dynamite guitar player. A lot better than I.
Wow. And mate, it's amazing how many musically inclined people we have on FOH.
Yeah.
Guys who play instruments.
Minus the Springsteen lovers out there, but everything else is good to go as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well.
I've tried Bruce. It's not my thing. Sorry, Ken.
What's your thing? No, he dragged me to a concert once. It was a disaster. He dragged me in debt concert. We left the tickets up to him. He bought the cheapest tickets I've ever seen. We were on the back row, the top end of the back row of the stadium. And I hate going to a concert where you have to look at the screen to see
Yeah,
what's
that's
going on.
I don't
It's
like
just
going there.
it's
If
the
if
purpose.
if it's a concert where there's sporting events played, that's not my bag. I like the little clubs. But I did go get to see the Stones um, a number of years back. That was kind of a I don't know. That one sticks out in my mind as one of the best concerts I've ever seen. But I've probably been to 1,000 concerts. I mean, I went to like I think a buddy of mine. We counted. We went to 130 one year of shows. We pretty much almost every night we'd go see a band somewhere. So I love going to see live music, and music's kind of one of those things that it's gotten me through some parts of my life where I don't know where I'd be without music.
Yeah, yeah. Music and fishing.
Music,
Um,
fishing.
music and fishing. I find that if if I'm in a shitty mood, well, I can tell you this: when I'm in a really shitty mood, where things aren't going all that well, because you're in business, yeah. I'm in business. You know,
Yeah.
you get asked. I mean, half your job in business is handling asteroids as they come through, and if two or three,
Putting out crisis fires.
well, crisis fires, and there are days where or weeks where you get hit by three or four or five, and it gets shitty. And Dee would just come up to me and say, "Okay, you're going fishing. Go grab your rods and just go." Grab some cigars, grab your rods. I normally fish with a fly rod if I'm really shitty, because I love that cathartic nature of a fly rod. It just really takes me out of because you got to pay attention to what you're doing, and it's gorgeous, and it just brings me back to a calm that I can't get hardly doing anything else.
It's
So
fly
yeah,
fishing is a blast.
I love it. Yeah, no, flies brilliant. It's good. What other hobbies do you have? So you got music, you got
Yeah,
cigars.
I one another one of my hobbies is I build fishing rods. I got into that about 10 years ago, and I really find that cathartic. I really enjoy creating. I try to build the best fishing rods that I can, component wise, and um, I have a fly rod that I built that I've never fished yet. I'm going to fish it on the Klamath River this year, and I'm looking forward to that. But it's
Do you
something that
just build do you build for yourself, or do you do a little bit for friends as well?
I
Do you do a bit of a
well,
custom?
I got a lot of buddies that come up to me. I've got some commercial fishermen that go, I have 6 broken rods, help me, and I'll put new guides on them or new tip tops, or I'll find another half of the blank that they stepped on when they were halibut fishing or whatever. And so I do rod repair, and then I've built I built my best friend a trout rod when he lived in Colorado that uh, it's the highest end trout rod I could build for him, and he loves it. So I take a lot of pride in that. And there's a lot of pride in catching a fish on a fishing rod that you built from hand, from scratch.
Yeah.
So, and I built myself a number of rods. I built my main light line steelhead rod I built, and I get a lot of comments on that on the river, so it's pretty cool. What other hobbies? I love to travel. That's something that I've gotten into uh, last maybe decade. I just got back from Greece last fall, and spent time on Naxos Island and Athens, and I
You enjoyed
spent
it? Did you enjoy it?
loved it. Loved the
Yeah.
people, loved the food. Uh, the drivers in Greece are quite interesting. They just park right in the middle of the street. They don't give a shit if there's parking or people driving. There was a roundabout. There was a car parked right in the middle of the roundabout. They got out and just went to the store, and I just cracked up at that. It's like there's no and it's they don't it nobody gets mad. It's just yeah, I'll just park. No parallel parking, just straight into the curb. So it's just fun to see little, the little differences between, culturally how people, how the drivers are and how the food is. And um, I did a road trip through the Pyrenees and through South France, and so we've done. I got a buddy of mine that we travel together, and we've seen some pretty cool stuff. and we never have an itinerary. We just kind of rent a car and go, and that's where you end up in these little villages that you never even know that some of them aren't even on the map. But you come in and you have lunch somewhere, have a nice cup of coffee. What I liked about Greece was you can smoke a cigar anywhere, and they don't care. So I dug that.
No. Great attitude. I mean, they only discovered tax a couple of years ago. So you know, no one paid tax before then.
Yeah.
It's look. I think travel just enlightens you so much when you do it. It educates you so much, and you come to realize how big this world is and how different it is, and you get to appreciate the differences. Um,
How big the
you know,
world is, but also that we're not all that different. And people are
no,
people wherever you go, and it kind of I don't know, it makes the world feel a little bit smaller in a way,
yeah,
like more accessible, I guess. And it gives
yeah,
you a broader worldview. And uh, yeah, I just
it does. It does. I mean, you work out that politics isn't that important.
well, yeah, I was going to say I didn't
It-
hear anyone mention Trump when I was in Greece. Everybody was busy just living in their life. So
yeah, it's not the main game.
it's almost like
Actually,
we're not.
going
It's almost like America's not the center of the universe. It's amazing.
going
But
going going back to your health issues that you went through, because I went through a similar period of time. Went through had heart failure, had a arrhythmia, which led to heart failure. So I had
uh,
got down to 16% ejection fraction, which is it was close. It was pretty close to the end of days. And it's amazing through those tough times that you know how you have to knuckle down and just replan and rethink your life and what you're going to do. Was it? How would you describe that period for yourself?
I had some profound experiences through that because number one, you feel completely powerless, and uh, also I learned that if you want to get admitted to an ER, tell them you're having a stroke situation, and they'll get you back there in 30 seconds. Um, One of the things that was interesting is the whole time I was going through that, and I was in the ER for 3 days, and they had the stroke team where they don't let you sleep, and I had tubes coming out everywhere, and uh, I felt totally calm, like I don't know, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of dying. I wasn't really afraid. I've had kind of my young life was tumultuous, and um, yeah, I didn't have the best childhood growing up, and so when I was about 22, I I was real self-destructive throughout my early life, and I quit drinking and doing drugs when I was 22 years old. And
Yeah,
so I already had an appreciation and a gratitude for getting a new lease on life from going through all that stuff in my early life. But that last experience really made me appreciate just being with my family, being present. When I go fishing now, I'm completely, you know, immersed in what I'm doing because I just realized that we're not guaranteed another day. We're not guaranteed another moment. And so better start living now. I was watching this that Britain's Got Talent the other
yeah,
night, and there was a gal on there that had cancer, and I guess she ended up dying, but she got the golden buzzer thing or whatever, and she was a good singer, but she said you can't wait for life to get good to decide to be happy. And so when I went through that experience, I remember they did the I guess they called it an angiogram where they look at your heart, and I could see my heart beating, and I just got this feeling came over me of like, I need to love myself. I need to love that heart. Look how hard that heart's working to keep me alive, and just to treat myself better, because I think that in the world we live in now, the world definitely needs more love, but it starts with us loving ourselves. And
That's so true.
and when I came out of the hospital, like I said, I felt totally calm through that. But I got home and I closed the door behind me and I just broke down because it was an intense experience, and I felt really mortal and really fragile. And it took a while to get through that. And I recently had some more health issues where I was forgetting things, and I would write things down. And I'd write them down wrong. So we feel like, and I'm on medications to kind of combat this. Lost a little weight, trying to do a little better about my health. I talked my doctor into letting me smoke cigars because she told me I had to cut out those. I said, "There's no way. I'll stop eating crap or less crap." I don't drink, I don't smoke cigarettes. I said, but cigars, I'm not going to quit cigars. She said, fine, you can have a couple of days, just cut back a little bit. So I cut down from 5 to 3. So
Oh,
doctor's
God.
order.
I had to go through 3 cardiologists before I found one who said you can keep smoking cigar.
Yeah, you can always get a second or third opinion.
Yeah, I love it. I love you, Arnold. You're a good man, and he's a cracker. But yeah, no, yeah, I think you use the term fragile, and you do feel fragile especially when you come out. And there's that. But I was exceptionally calm as well. I think you get a level when it all dawns on you the seriousness of the situation. You get to a level of acceptance,
Yes,
and I think the quicker you get to that level of acceptance, the better it is. I've never been one to feel sorry for myself because I got myself in that situation the way my lifestyle was,
sure.
and I certainly didn't help it. So yeah, I think it's been what 7 or 8 years now since then, and yeah, you get fit, you get healthy, you look after yourself far better. But you do,
And start
Jesus, you do appreciate every day.
and I started to accept some of my limitations. I'm not, you know, I can't burn the candle at both ends like I used to. So, and that's another thing that I look at cigars as a meditation where, I can wind down and just slow down, stop, have a cigar, just kind of put all that all the stresses of life, all the chaos, just set it aside. And right now, I got a cigar, everything's good. And so,
It's good. Yeah. Question: SLRDC has it transitioned at all?
yeah, a little bit. It's kind of gone a little milder than I thought. I expected it to kind of gain strength. I'm kind of having to touch it up a little bit. I think it's well, we've had some humidity here, so it's kind of
I think it's also a cigar that it's probably not ideal as a cigar to be in this sort of an environment. I
right.
think the SLRDC is one that it almost demands a little bit of attention from from,
I could
from
see that.
yourself because of the lilting nature of it, the softness of it. You know, it's an intriguing cigar to me. But if I ever have an SLRDC, I'll never have one in the company of anyone else.
Well,
It's
my next
generally
one, I,
stuff.
I have a handful of these, so I'll be smoking one
Good.
somewhere on a riverbank.
How are
Kicking my
you? How
feet up.
are you when it comes to determining flavors in the cigar? I mean,
I used to try to pull out more flavors than I think that my palate was capable of doing, and I try not to overcomplicate it too much. Normally, I can pick out a few flavors here and there a lot of Cuban cigars have more in common than they do differences, and I can pick out stone fruit, or I can pick out like with Romeo and Julieta. Like there's occasionally I'll pick out that cherry note. Monte Cristo, you get the cocoa. So I mean, there are certain cigars. Partagas has that kind of baking spice, sort of capsicum sort of flavor to
yeah,
it, and bread, and then with the I get a certain from Trinidad's, I definitely get that kind of a donut character. And so I've never gotten bacon fat out of a cigar, so some people taste things that others don't. Obviously, bacon fat
Really?
or old football, I've heard also described.
Old
But
football, old ladies' leather bags.
leather
Yeah,
bags, I've gotten leather bags before.
wallet. Old wallet was
Old
used on the
wallet,
boring.
yeah. But so
Uh,
I'd say I have a fairly sophisticated palate when it comes. These days I've as and especially with aged cigars, I can pick out flavors when I really pay attention to it. I'll go, oh, that's an interesting something I've never tasted before, and I'll kind of make note of it.
so you really kicked off pre 2019, but not too far before that in
No,
serious collecting.
the prices slowly started to creep up when I first got back into cigars, and then it
Yeah,
just jumps.
just
And
went nuts.
so I
What
did manage
advice?
to.
What I was going to say, I was going to ask you, but what advice would you give someone who's starting out today in terms of cigars?
I would
And
say,
this is NCs as well as Cuban cigars.
yeah, I'd say try a bunch of different stuff. Don't be afraid to experiment and um, figure out what if there's a certain size. Like I decided that I'm not really a huge fan of box press cigars. I like round cigars. I just like the way they feel in my hand. I like to roll them around, and um, I began to realize that I liked skinnier cigars, and um, but it took a couple years for me to figure out what my likes. And so if you see those um those sampler deals on 2024, or you see boxes of 10, that's a great way to figure out vitolas and different different markets. And uh, but also it's a journey. Just take your time, enjoy their cigars. Luckily for me, I pretty much like almost every cigar I smoke. I can find some enjoyment out of it. There's not many cigars where I go, I don't like that cigar. Most cigars, Cubans especially, um, the Nudie line, the Mofo, Trinity Robusta, those are
I love,
fantastic.
I
I
love that
burned through
cigar.
a whole. Matter of fact, I wanted to age some of those Trinity Robusto Trinities, and I wasn't able to do it. So I'm going to have to buy a couple of them to sock away. And but I would say, if I were to give any advice, is don't be afraid to try some of the cheap and cheerfuls, and don't don't be shy about trying a Cohiba here and there, or a Trinidad, or you know, drop a little coin on a couple nice ones, and save them for a time where you want to really indulge in something like that, because life's too short. Spend your
It
money.
is. For someone who loves I mean, you love Cuban cigars. You also have smoked plenty of non-Cuban cigars.
Yeah,
And
and
you've mentioned
I
some
like
brands.
Cameroon wrapper cigars. I love Cameroon cigars. There's
Yeah.
just something
Yeah.
about a Cameroon wrapper. I love those Arturo Fuente Hemingways and the Don Carloses of the world, and Oliva Milanio. Those are great cigars. Uh, any of the Padrones are quality. You're going to get a good cigar. Uh, Davidoff is a brand that's never really grabbed me. I've tried, and for some reason, I so taste is so subjective that what one person likes, and I made that mistake too. So, well, this guy, I'd read reviews and I go, well, that's the cigar to get, and then I'd say, I don't taste any of the things these people are tasting out of this cigar. Or people would, yeah, that cigar's crap, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd smoke it and go, wow, I really like it. So, you know, trust your instincts, trust your palate, and
It's true,
try
but
different things.
you don't drink anymore, do you?
Mm-mm.
No. So it's a little bit like wine that you read a review on wine and you think, that's me. That bottle is me. That's exactly what I love. And you get that bottle and it's nothing like I really expected it to be because your
Yeah,
expectations are that. And I've learned that the worst time to buy wine is when you have a great bottle of wine at a restaurant because I'm guilty. Often before I even leave the restaurant, I've tracked down a distributor and I've ordered a case. And And of course, once you bring that wine home and you have it in a different environment, it tastes completely different to what I
Right.
remember. So it's a pain in the ass. I've got cases and cases of wine that I probably will never revisit. I don't know why. I give them away, or I use them on the deck for our Friday deck sessions. I'll put on bottles of wine for people so they can enjoy them. But yeah, no, it's a similar to cigars. I mean, I probably there are guys on the forum that I'll follow in terms of reviews because I know that we enjoy very similar types of cigars, and they're the ones I'll follow. And there are other guys that I have, especially when it comes to NCs, because that's been a relatively new world for me in terms of non-Cuban cigars. And let's face it, there's a couple of there'd have to be 6,000-7,000 different lines of non-Cuban cigars out
So
there.
many to choose from. How do you narrow it down? Because
Yeah, so yeah, I really do rely on reviews on the forum on NCs that I haven't tried. I love them. You said Oliva Milano, their Lancero is excellent.
yeah,
I love, you talked initially when we first started on this discussion about La Gloria Cabana in the 90s. Honestly, his Wavell Maduro was so good. La Gloria Cabana Wavell Maduro at that
yeah,
period
those were
of
good
time.
cigars.
They were really good cigars. Unfortunately, during that period of time, anytime a cigar got popular, I mean, the US is such a big market. Today, it's an $11 billion market per annum. So when those guys hit the gravy train, they've got a choice. They can keep it small or they can go big. And invariably, what happened there and what happened with, is it Tony Bahani with his cigars back then, brilliant cigars, all of a sudden, they went production, they doubled, tripled, quadrupled production in 2 years, which is an impossibility.
Right.
And maintain the blending integrity, the quality integrity, everything you want. And in the end, they all sold out to one of the major houses because simply, and the cigars are never the same again. They're never the same again. There's never the
Right.
same at that period of time where you've got a craftsman involved who takes immense pride, is overseeing the process, is tasting every pilon to get that blend, to make sure that blend stays true. That's boutique, that's small batch production. Now, when you get to the next, and that's why I love what Padron have done, Arturo Fuente have done. They've maintained. Now, you may not like every one of their cigars, but they've maintained a level of control of their
Consistency.
product and consistency in a market where they're in the top 5 global in what they do. So a huge amount of respect for those operators. And now I see what Oliva's doing, and Oliva's really branching out. Their manufacturing facilities, world class, some of the largest in the world, but they're still managing to put out a consistent product that's getting excellent acceptance, not just in the US, but in Europe and Asia. So I love seeing those guys succeed. I
Yeah.
really do.
And the stories of those families and how they, left Cuba and went, took a real gamble to try to grow cigars in Nicaragua. And what Fabrica 5 is doing has just been, I love the pictures that you put up with the rollers and all the stacks of cigars. It's really neat to buy cigars and then get to see the whole journey of how they came to be and
Oh yeah.
what you and Hamlet have
Yeah.
accomplished. I commend you on that. You guys have done a fantastic job.
We're really enjoying the process. You know what? I love working with Hammy. I love working with Hammy. I think he's been a great friend of mine for such a long period of time. And I think I've got 5 joint ventures in different businesses in and out of cigars, and they're all with friends
Yeah.
who I trust and I love. And look, there's always asteroids and there's always challenges And let me tell you, when it comes to cigar factories, there's always challenges in there
Right.
because you're working in parts of the world which run to the beat of their own drum. I mean, Central and South America, it's not a Swiss watch. It takes serious supervision, involvement to get things right and consistently right. But to be able to work with friends over a long period of time, and the highlight for me is when I catch up with them and we have a long lunch and we discuss how we conceptualized it, how we started it, the hard days, and they're all hard, but the successes. You got to celebrate your successes in life. You have to
Yes.
celebrate your successes in life. You got to take them. No use waiting until you're 65 or 70 and say, now I'm going to start enjoying myself. Christ, you got to enjoy yourself on a daily basis. And you touched upon that before.
Yeah, one of my goals next year is I'm going to take a road trip and drive up to Canada, and there's an area up there in northern British Columbia where the largest steelhead in the world roam, and it's just gorgeous. And there's grizzly bears around every corner, and you get those fall colors, and it's just grand. It's like, why wait to do your bucket list stuff? Tomorrow never comes. You got to plan it. You got to schedule it like you schedule your work time. You got to schedule your phone. You have to schedule your and commit to it. So I have a lot of friends that are always making excuses. I don't make excuses. I want to go, talk is cheap. Action is where it's at. So get out there and check those bucket list things off. It's important.
No, it is. It is. It
So
is.
important. I
It
value
is.
experience more than material possessions. I always have leaned more towards, I'd rather leave this world broke, but having had experiences and seeing places and things, and the people that you spend the time with is, that's riches beyond gold as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I know. If you're not laughing, you're in trouble. And I think you need to surround yourself with people, with family, with friends, and you need to keep it light. And you need to not always light, but you need to keep a mentality where you're a rising tide, where you're lifting people's spirits,
Yeah,
and it's a lot easier to do it when you're with people who have that natural mentality anyway.
yeah,
It's great.
and people with like interests and a zest for life, and also it helps to. In my case, I just seem to attract crazy people into my life because I'm pretty nuts myself. So um, there's never a dull
They're the
moment.
best, but they're the best. I
Yes.
mean, they're the best. I love my deck crew on a Friday. I mean, they'll all be up there tomorrow. And, I've got guys there who will turn off their phone because they know someone's listening. And I'm thinking, really? Oh, I love those guys. But, everyone's different. Everyone's got their little idiosyncrasies. And that's fine. That's what makes life. Imagine surrounding yourself with only people who agree with you.
Yeah.
You want that. You want that rich tapestry, and we go back to travel. It's meeting those. It's meeting those cab drivers. It's meeting those guys that who are left field. My whole life is full of left field people who are just out there. You know, but you appreciate them for what they add to the sandwich. They just make it rich. They make living worthwhile. Yeah, I love traveling with them. Not all of them. I can't travel with Ken any longer. You love you just love spending time, and this is where these things come in. I've met most of my friends through this over the years, and the
I,
the ability to sit down like we're doing and over a cigar and ask each other about what's happening in their world without talking how much money you've made or how much money you earned last year or what politics you're in, that'll come in time, maybe, or maybe not, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's about real people doing real things, and I think cigars just provide that environment to do so.
Well, I've already met quite a few. I mean, some very generous people on FOH, and I mean, it's just a great community. I'm really glad I stumbled upon it, and I did literally stumble upon it. I'm like, "What's this? Friends of Habanos? That might be something I'm interested in." And
How did you find it?
Google. I just was kind of looking. I was kind of looking around for cigar vendors, and I stumbled on this forum, and I'm like, oh, I got to join this. And I've been a member of, yeah, I've been a member of fishing forums, and I don't do Facebook, but I do like niche uh, social media where everyone has a common interest, and that's a great way. When I moved up to Oregon, I lived up there for a few years, and I met a lot of lifelong friends just by being on internet boards and going fishing with these guys, total strangers. And that's another thing that has really brought me in. Just any hobby will bring you into uh, contact with people that have the same interests, and then you meet people that are from all different walks of life, but there's that one common thing that kind of binds you together. And so I just stumbled on FOH, and uh, I think my post count got up to 1,000 within about a month. I post a lot on there, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy the interactions, and uh, a lot of times, I'll find a spot to throw in some humor and share what I can. I mean, my knowledge of cigars, it's gotten a lot better, but I still have a lot to learn, and I learn from people on the board every day. Guys like Pigfish or NSX Cigar or John, um, you and Ken, and I love it. It's a great board, and it's a great community. And I've met a few people here in Monterey. We had a couple little mini herfs, and so that was neat.
It is. The forum is very much an extension of what our deck is, except it encapsulates a couple of thousand people.
Right.
But yeah, I was just reading through that thread on the barrel Monster. What was it, the Partagas barrel, and looking at the level of information from Stefan, from Jeff, from
Alex.
yeah, Alex
Lonnie.
Groom.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, that's just gold.
Yeah, it's
In
gold.
terms, it's just gold.
Where else are you gonna find that? I haven't found it anywhere. It
No,
definitely, the knowledge of the board has shortened my learning curve big time, and so I'm really grateful for that.
and they do it in such a way that is it's not who's got the biggest swinging dick.
Right.
They do it in a manner of sharing information. That's the culture we try to ensure in on FOH, is that there are going to be people from all different levels reading what you're doing, and everyone's in charge of the culture of the forum. As a member, you're in charge of the culture. So before you go and reply to someone, even though it may have ticked you off, think of it. Are you adding value in terms of your response? Are you I mean, you are all curators of the culture. And I think that's why we have such a good culture on the forum. It's not for everybody. Some people just love a train wreck, and that's what they go to forums for. And
That's one of the
it's,
most
it's
non-drama. It's one of the most non-drama forums I've ever been a part of. There's not much drama on there, and I love that. I wouldn't say
yeah,
that I would say about half of what I post on there adds any value, but it is what it is.
mine either. That's fine.
Just,
But
just take what I
I
say with a grain of salt half the time.
yeah, no, it's the way it should be. It's the way it should be. In terms of if you had a newbie come to you, a new cigar smoker come to you, what 2 or 3 cigars will you be handing them?
Well, I'd hand him a Rafael Gonzalez Perla. I think that
Good to go.
for value and flavor and a little firecracker of a cigar, those are as good as any small format cigars I've ever come across. I love them. They're one of my favorites. I would also Ramon Aones special or small club or a Principe. You know, those small vitolas. I'd start somebody off with something like that. You're going to get around to a Monte 4. That's something that everybody should try, a Monte 4. And I probably would start them off on, you know, just kind of a basic level. Maybe turn them on to a nudie or two. You know, here's something that's not Cuban, and that Honduran tobacco. I really have found that I really like Honduran tobacco a lot. It's got a sweetness to it that I really haven't found elsewhere. And there's a couple of Honduran brands out there.
It's the closest we found to good Honduran tobacco. Amastran tobacco is certainly the closest that we found to Cuban tobacco, and we don't lie that there is nothing like Cuban tobacco. I
There
mean,
isn't,
Cuban
but
tobacco.
it doesn't need to be Cuban. It has its
No,
own. It stands on its own. And same with Dominican and Nicaraguan. And I would just if a newbie came, I'd say try a little of everything. See what you like. Maybe you like some of those stronger Nicaraguans that punch you in the face. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I like something with a little more subtlety and something that I can really concentrate on. Well, what am I tasting here? What am I feeling with this?
right.
Uh,
That
uh,
asteroid's going to hit you. Say that asteroid's going to hit you next week. So you got a week. You got 5 cigars in you. You're going to smoke the last 5 cigars. What are those 5 cigars going to be?
Punch double Corona. I've got a couple Sir Winstons that are going to hit flame. Uh, I'll probably smoke my Trinidad Topaz, and I've got a couple Siglo sixes. I'm going to burn those up, and then five. Yeah, I can't pick five. I'll smoke five a day. If the asteroid's coming, I'll just smoke. I'll smoke all my double Coronas. The St. Louis Rays are they're the only flame that's going to hit them is not going to be the asteroid. It's going to be my Eagle Flame torchlighter.
But you don't seem to be someone who's running around with ST DuPonts, etc., and $300 cutters. What are
No,
your accessories that you normally use? Just your Eagles?
yeah, I mean, I have about 6 or 7 of them. I'm always losing them anyway, so I've got a couple in my truck, a couple in my van, a couple in my house. That way, I know I could always find them. They're cheap. I've had a couple that have lasted a few years, so you know they're $5, and they do the job of. I've bought a couple more expensive cutters, and you know I have one of those um, Calibri cigar cutters. And it doesn't work any different than the $5 little double blade jobber I use. And this is
No.
probably my favorite. This is my favorite cigar accessory. Is my
Yeah, little FOH cigar
FOH
holder.
cigar holder. You know, that's the one thing that if I broke or lost this, I'd be kind of bummed about that. But other than that, I'm not real fancy. Uh, I don't
But
wear.
neither am I. That's my lighter for today. It's
Yeah,
just they're just dang. You know, they
I
work.
mean, if
They're
I were to be
$5.
if I were to hang out with Kirby Allison, I'd probably he'd probably look at me as I'm a little underdressed. But you know,
I'm still bringing this with curbs. I'm going to still bring this one, and
oh, you gotta
yeah,
and
I got it.
mismatch wear mismatched flip flops. What the hell?
Yeah, yeah. It was dark, right? It was very dark that morning when I picked them. You know, you're rushing around trying to get your fishing gear together. It's dark. I didn't realize till that photo came out, but I had.
Function over form. Function over form.
You're right, exactly right. Well, Robert, that was a brilliant deep dive. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you for everything you do on the forum. I know you're much loved member, and I know that the guys will get a deeper insight into you and your life and what you love. And this is what this is. Well, this is what this program is about: is to just take the time. Guys will listen to this either in one hit or over a week as they're working out in the yard, etc. There, and that's what it's for. So, mate,
Well,
thank you very, very much.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share a little of my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Enjoy that SLRDC, mate.
I'm,
Enjoy that SLRDC.
I'm going to enjoy this final third here.
Good stuff. Cheers.
Thank you, Rob.